Welcome to Sarpy Outlook, dedicated to promoting democratic ideals from an issue-based perspective. This season, however, we are focusing on candidates who embody those ideals by running for public office. I'm Peg O'Dea Lippert. Our guest is Janet Stewart, Democratic candidate for Nebraska Attorney General. Welcome, Janet.
Thank you, Peg. It's always a pleasure to be with the Sarpy County Democrats here at Sarpy Outlook.
Janet, would you begin by telling us what are the primary duties of the Attorney General? And if you would, evaluate how the current Attorney General has functioned and how and what you would do differently.
Okay, that's like a multi-part question,
Yeah,
so if I forget something at the end, please tell me.
I will.
Okay, the Attorney General is a state executive who manages what is essentially a large law firm of professionals and staff who handle the legal business of the state of Nebraska. I see the roles of the Attorney General in kind of three categories. The first is enforcing and defending Nebraska law, and the Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer of the state of Nebraska. The second important duty is defending and respecting the legal rights that Nebraskans possess. And the third, of course, is running an agency, a state agency, and that involves providing quality legal services at a cost-effective price which conserves state resources, and those are things that I think I can do very well. I think the second part of the question is what I think has been done by the past Attorney General, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to run for the office, because I think recent Attorney Generals have been too involved in partisan political issues. They were ambitious politically, and they wanted to promote themselves for some future races that they might run in. And I think that does a disservice to the state of Nebraska. I think that Nebraskans deserve nonpartisan, professional legal representation, and that's my commitment to Nebraskans. And the third part of your question is...
that was it.
Okay.
That was it. Janet, in what ways are you qualified for the position you seek?
Well, I have broad experience and educational background. I basically have worked in state government. I've worked in a business setting where I was a corporate litigation manager for 26 years. And finally, for the last 7 years, I've been in private practice in Nebraska. I have focused my efforts on juvenile court matters representing children and their families, and that has become a very big priority for me. I did pursue some social work training in that area, and so I think I can make an exceptional contribution in that area.
Well, Janet, I think voters are interested particularly in these divisive and partisan political times, if not hatefulness, that what further motivates you to seek this office?
Well, what I want to do is I want to represent our most vulnerable Nebraskans who need actually an advocate and a champion because they have no one else to represent them. I've mentioned that I do have a specific interest in child welfare issues, and that's something that I want to address. And also I've had some experience working in the area of family violence, violence against women, and that will be a priority for me.
Thank you. I understand that your opponent is a Lincoln attorney, and I have recently met him. And would you tell the voters in what ways you feel and believe that you are a better choice than he?
Thank you. Well, I think I have a broader educational background, and I also have more specific experience that will help me be an effective Attorney General. I did go to school here in Omaha. I got an economics degree from the University of Nebraska at Omaha, and then I really couldn't find a job in the economics field as a woman in the early 1970s, so I decided to go to law school. Graduated from Creighton Law School in 1975 and went to work at the Nebraska Commission on Industrial Relations, which is a small state agency that administers a collective bargaining statute for public employees. And so when I was there, I learned how to manage staff, how to work with the legislature, how to administer personnel matters, how to write up a budget and how to follow it and get it submitted to the legislature. So I think these are all very important skills that relate to the work of the Attorney General's office. After my government service, I was a corporate litigation manager and worked for a Fortune 500 company for 24 years. And during that time, what my job was supervising top-notch trial attorneys who handled my company's litigation throughout the United States. And I think this is also what the Attorney General does, is obviously you're the executive of the agency. You do not personally perform all the legal services yourself, but being trained and having experience in managing those who do is very important. A couple other things that I learned as a business attorney is how to manage legal compliance in a large organization. That's been a particular issue that has arisen with the Department of Corrections here in Nebraska, and because I've had experience doing that, that's something that I can work on when I get there. Past 7 years, I've practiced law with my husband in Fremont, Nebraska. You know, we do work in federal court and state court, but my own focus has been in juvenile court. And that's an area that has become a passion for me and where I think I can really contribute at the Attorney General's office because they have a child protection division. My opponent, he did have some early government service in his career. He had a couple of years as an assistant county prosecutor and a couple of years at the Attorney General's office. But for the past 25 plus years, he's been a private practice attorney doing trial work.
That's interesting, Janet, particularly at this time in our state government where we have important issues to be addressed both in child protective services and in the corrections, as you mentioned. So seems we do need some closer oversight that you seem qualified to bring.
Yes, I think so. And, you know, I actually attended the legislative hearings on the Department of Corrections sentencing noncompliance, and so I have a really good understanding of what went wrong there and how to fix it. Another thing I want to mention, and which is a difference between me and my opponent, is that he has spoken out on some very conservative and religious issues and has strong feelings in that matter. And while I respect, you know, his right to have his opinions, I wonder if that's really appropriate for an Attorney General to speak out on those issues, because as Attorney General, you represent the state of Nebraska and the people of the state of Nebraska, and I just don't think it's appropriate to wade into issues that divide Nebraska. Another thing, most recently, he got himself involved in the protection order and resignation situation of Lieutenant Governor Heidemann, and I just think that that sends a wrong message to Nebraskans who care very much about family violence and physical aggression issues, and I would not feel comfortable doing that. And because I've had experience working in a domestic violence center, I'm very sensitive to those issues, and I think I can represent Nebraskans well in that regard.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, Janet, because my concern about that was he dabbling a bit in partisan politics on behalf, perhaps, of the governor and attempting to intervene in that situation, which the result was that Lieutenant Governor resigned.
Right, right. I just think it's a mixed message on those issues to Nebraskans.
Janet, in addition to what we've discussed, what further is it that you would like the voters to know about you?
Well, I guess what I would like to share is that in my child welfare work, you know, I've seen heartbreaking cases of child abuse and neglect, violence, family violence, drug use, things that I feel that I've been trained to deal with because I do have a master's in social work. And I have counseled in different nonprofits like the Child Savings Institute here in Omaha and also the Domestic Violence Center in Fremont. And I think that and my broad background in business and economics, I think, gives me the skill set that I need to run the Attorney General's office effectively, providing quality legal services and saving taxpayer dollars. And so I really hope that everybody will turn out to vote on either early, you can vote now, or on November 4th, and I would appreciate your support.
Janet, on behalf of the Sarpy County Democrats and personally, I want to thank you and wish you, if not all the votes, at least 50% plus one on November 4th. And we would be so fortunate to have you serve as Nebraska's next Attorney General.
Thank you. And remember to take your family and friends with you to the polls. And if you do that, then we're going to have some really strong Democratic candidates that win their races. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.